David Marshall, a very good evening to you.
Good evening, how are you?
I'm all right. I always feel a little bit nervous because I'm talking to you and I know that I should be doing a little bit more about my training regime. But nevertheless, let's get your view on what the Olympics are going to do. Do you believe that people are getting out there and getting involved following this, especially at a younger age?
Well, there's definitely a short-term effect, which we always expected. But what disturbs me is I think we're going to end up with a situation where the Olympic legacy is going to end up being three football clubs fighting over who gets the ownership and use of the Olympic Stadium.
Yeah, David, I know that you've actually, approached the government yourself and not necessarily been welcomed with open arms and lots of excitement about your ideas.
Well, I was asked to train 3 cross-party MPs and a peer from the House of Lords. And it went on a programme called The Daily Politics, which went out on primetime BBC twice a week with an audience of about 800, but 700 of them were MPs. And the idea was to prove that the programme and what we do works, and then get a cross-party coalition and implement my programme into the schools. And Caroline Flint was supposedly the fitness minister at the time, but she did nothing. She just shied away from it 2 minutes before she was due on in the studio, and they all went back to chinking their glasses and having a gin and tonic. And the reality of it is, politicians start off with good intentions, but once they're there for a while, they usually end up wanting to keep their positions, and they have more spin than Morphy Richards. And what really interests me is what's being done for children, because they don't decide how much movement they have. They don't decide how good the food they eat is. It's in the hands of the adults, and there is nothing. And what is shameful, I think, is that there's a concentration on where the next batch of elite athletes is going to be for Rio, which should be a priority as well. But you've got to remember, the millions of other children that should be given a chance to be in the frame.
David,
and they're not being given a chance.
David, I think your sort of experience chimes very much with Jamie Oliver's. His was very much, he came up against a brick wall in terms of getting more funding from the government for school dinners. Do you think, as you say, the onus is on the politicians. Do you think they're always going to sort of disregard it when it really comes down to it, and to give more funding for young people who are the key?
Well, the thing is, we're going to see, because I've been promised that after the Olympics, Westminster Council are going to implement my programme into the schools, because one of my customers happens to be in charge of childhood obesity within Westminster, and she deals at government level, and I know that she's a doer, not a talker. But it's really a question of what she comes up against, The other thing that I find really, really disturbing is that, there's all this spin all the time about how people need to go out there and get active and take control of their lives and make an effort and not be a burden on the NHS. But the people that do make the effort and go to the local leisure centre, or join a cycling club, or join a tennis club, or join a local gym, or go to a personal trainer like me, or anything to do with making themselves well, they get clobbered for an extra 20% VAT. When on the government's HMRC website, it tells you that in order to be exempt from VAT in the field of health, you have to do something that protects, preserves and enhances the well-being of an individual. Yet the people who want to exercise, they're getting taxed for it.
Yeah,
so where does that come from?
Yeah, because there's tax on five-a-side and things like that, isn't there?
Well, no, it's ridiculous. So what I've done is I've started a petition, and I've put it up on the government website, because you need 100,000 people to sign it in order for it to be debated in Parliament. And I believe, I don't know what your coverage is, I think it's quite high. I think if people are out there and they really do care, that they'll do it. So all they've got to do is send an email to petition@bodydoctor.com, and it will be forwarded to the government.
Is it on your website as well, if you just go to bodydoctor.com?
You don't even need to go to the website. You can go to the website, but if you send an email, petition@bodydoctor.com, All he needs to do is have your email address and your details and your name, and it will be forwarded, and it will go into the petition, which takes 7 to 10 days for the website to put it up.
David, I don't mean to tell you what to do. Have you got a Twitter address as well? Because the tweeting is very powerful. I mean, I know some people who ran some petitions themselves by using Twitter, and within 3 or 4 days had racked up.
Well, the thing is, I'm a bit of an old git. I'm 55, so I don't really do that kind of stuff. But
a very
there is a Twitter feed now which will go live called The Body Doctor.
Right.
So I suppose I'm going to have to get with it and do it. But the thing is, I think you're going to be speaking to someone that I work with at a charity called Health Through Sports, which is has direct involvement with some of the primary care trusts within the 5 Olympic boroughs. And, the man who runs that will be telling you what the level of apathy is within, not just local government, but also big business. Because, you've got all these sponsors, and they're very happy to sell you a hamburger and a glass of fizzy drink, which make people fat in the first place, but an initiative to get people healthy, they're not so keen on.
David, thank you very much for your time, by the way, and thank you for making some very strong and valid points. And I certainly hope that petition is signed by 100,000 ASAP and that it is debated in Parliament, because, of course, that's when things start to happen. We'll be signing it here as well, I can guarantee you.
Well, it should be, and if you can shine a light on it, then you'll really be going a long, long way to getting something done, because kids need to be given the opportunity to participate in sport, and probably 80% of school children from the age of 7 upwards feel like there's just no point in them even trying, and that is wrong. Well, that is so wrong.
I agree with you. David, thank you very much for your time. Body Doctor David Marshall there.